Capricorn, there's a truth about you that no one ever dared to say out loud, not because they didn't know it, but because it made them uncomfortable to admit how deeply they've always depended on you. You've walked into rooms and watched conversations shift, tensions ease, and people instinctively adjust, all without you saying a single word. But no one tells you this. No one tells you that your presence calms storms. That your silence speaks louder than most people's declarations. That you are the invisible thread holding the chaos together. Why? Because if they said it out loud, they would have to admit how much they need you. How much they've leaned on your strength. How often they've used your steadiness as their compass, your resilience as their shelter. And Capricorn, that's the secret. You are needed far more than anyone has ever told you. But today, we're breaking that silence. Not only will you hear why you are so important, more important than even you've realized, but you'll finally understand the truth they've tried to keep hidden. That you've been the foundation in people's lives, while they've stood on your back pretending they stood on their own. So before we go deeper, I want you to do something powerful. Go to the comments right now and write this. I am the steady force. I am the unshakable presence. I am needed, and now I see it. Type it. Declare it. Let it settle in your spirit like thunder rolling in the distance, a quiet strength that's about to rise. Because the world around you is changing. People who once dismissed your worth are starting to realize they've been drawing from your well without even thanking you. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why. Why your energy rearranges everything. Why people feel safer near you, but rarely say it. And why your leadership, though silent, is spiritually undeniable. So don't scroll. Don't click away. Because once you hear what's coming next, you'll never allow yourself to be unseen again. Part 1. The energy that rearranges everything. Capricorn, you were never just part of the room, you changed the room. You've likely noticed it but dismissed it, chalked it up to coincidence. That sudden silence when you enter. The way people start choosing their words more carefully. The tension in the air that seems to melt without explanation. It's not your imagination. It's your energy. You don't have to speak loudly. You don't have to demand attention. Because your presence commands it in a way that's not boastful, but grounded. In a way that makes people feel like they've just stepped into order after chaos, like they've remembered something ancient and important just by standing next to you. You see, there's something sacred about how you enter a space. It's not about taking over, it's about realignment. When things are scattered, your presence brings gravity. People don't even realize they were off balance until you walk in. And suddenly, they find themselves adjusting, recalibrating, even breathing differently. But here's the twist, because you do it so effortlessly, they often don't give credit where credit is due. They think the meeting went better because the energy was just right. They think their family dinner was less tense for some reason. They think they feel clearer, safer, more settled, but they don't connect that feeling to you. And you've been conditioned not to expect that recognition. You've learned to serve without applause, to carry the atmosphere without asking for thanks, to hold the emotional weight of others in silence while they walk away lighter. But now it's time for you to understand what they won't say. Your energy rearranges everything. Not because you're trying, but because of who you are. There is structure in your voice. There is clarity in your stillness. There is truth in your presence. People crave it. They need it. And many will orbit around it without even understanding why they feel pulled in. Let me ask you this, and be honest with yourself. How many times have you walked into a chaotic space, and within minutes, things just started to settle? How many times have people told you, I don't know why, but I feel better talking to you, even though you barely said anything? Capricorn, that's not coincidence. That's spiritual alignment. You don't just bring peace, you are peace in human form. And for so long, others have benefited from that peace while leaving you to process their storms. But now, in this new season, the truth is surfacing. The ripple effect of your presence is becoming undeniable. And even those who once overlooked you are beginning to whisper, it was them. It was always them. They were the reason things held together. Let that sink in. Not as a compliment, but as truth. Life lesson of Part 1. The value you bring doesn't come from what you do. It radiates from who you are. And when you finally honor the energy you carry, you stop asking for permission to take up space because you realize the space was made for your presence to shape it. Part 2. The Invisible Anchor. Capricorn, every system has a center, and more often than not, that center is you. In families, you're the one they call when something breaks, even if you didn't cause it. In friendships, you're the steady one, the one who listens without judgment, advises without ego, and shows up without needing to be begged. In workplaces, you're the quiet stabilizer, the person who stays late, holds things together, and somehow becomes the unofficial leader even when you're not the one with the title. But here's what no one tells you. They don't call you because it's your job. They call you because you've become the anchor. You don't drift. You don't panic. You see things collapsing, and instead of joining the chaos, you instinctively become the weight that keeps the ship from tipping. You see conflict, and you offer structure. You see indecision, and you bring clarity. You see emotion, and you bring balance. And all the while, most people don't even realize it. They think you're just strong. They think you handle things well. They think you don't need much. But here's the truth no one speaks aloud: your ability to keep others from falling has often left you standing alone, holding the weight for everyone. You've been the one they lean on, but who do you lean on? You've held space for their storms, but who clears your skies? This is the heartbreak of the invisible anchor. You are needed in every storm, but forgotten in the calm. You are the one they trust to be there, so much so, they forget to ask if you're okay. Capricorn, let's pause here. Do you ever feel like if you disappeared tomorrow, the world wouldn't know how much it relied on you until you were gone? Because that's the paradox you live in. Your reliability has made people blind to your exhaustion. Your consistency has made your presence feel automatic, expected, not appreciated. But that ends now. This season of your life is not about carrying everything silently. It's about finally being seen for what you've carried. Not because you need praise, but because recognition is the beginning of balance. And you, Capricorn, deserve balance as much as you offer it to others. Because even anchors rust when they're never pulled up and cleaned. Even foundations crack when no one maintains them. And even you, the strongest person in the room, need rest, care, and space to be human. Life lesson of part 2. Being the anchor is noble, but never let it become your prison. You can hold others together without losing your own center. Strength is not just about standing firm, it's about knowing when to let go, rest, and allow others to stand on their own. Part 3. First to be called, last to be thanked. Capricorn, let's tell the truth: when a crisis hits, who do they call first? You. It doesn't matter if it's a family emergency, a business falling apart, a friend whose life is unraveling, your name is the first to leave their lips. Not because you're the loudest, not because you beg to be chosen, but because they know you'll show up. You're the fixer. The one who doesn't flinch when things get messy. The one who stays level-headed when everyone else is spiraling. The one who can walk into a room full of panic and start putting pieces back together while others are still trying to name the problem. But here's the part no one talks about. You're also the last to be thanked. They'll pour their fear into your hands, watch you carry it for them, and then walk away without a second glance. Not out of cruelty, but because they've grown used to your strength. They assume you're fine. They assume you don't need acknowledgement. They assume you're built for it. And maybe, Capricorn, you've even believed that. Maybe you've spent years telling yourself, I don't need recognition. I just want peace. Or, I'm not doing it for credit. I'm doing it because it's the right thing. And that's true. That's your nature. You are built for resilience. You do act from integrity, but that doesn't mean you don't deserve gratitude. Because what they call strong in you is often the result of years of struggle. What they call calm is hard-earned wisdom from storms you had to face alone. What they call dependable came from decades of picking yourself back up when no one was there to help. So yes, you keep showing up. But let's not pretend it doesn't hurt to be taken for granted. Let's not pretend that every unreturned call, every forgotten thank you, every moment they leaned on you but disappeared the second you needed something, didn't leave a scar. Capricorn, it's not wrong to want acknowledgement. It's not weak to desire appreciation. It's human. And the more you deny yourself the right to be seen, the more the world will continue to overlook your impact until you start believing you're invisible too. But you're not invisible. You're vital. They don't call you because you're available. They call you because you're essential. Let that truth find its way into your bones. Let it rewrite the story you've told yourself about being the strong one. And the next time the phone rings, pause. Ask yourself, do I have the capacity to carry this today? Because just because they're calling doesn't mean you're obligated to answer. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let them figure it out without you. Life lesson of part 3. Being everyone's first call in a crisis doesn't mean you owe them your peace. Give when it aligns with your soul, not out of habit or guilt. You are not the emergency exit for everyone else's chaos. Part 4. Spiritual gravity. Why people gravitate to you. Capricorn, have you ever noticed how people open up to you within minutes, sometimes telling you things they haven't told anyone else? A stranger on the train. A coworker at lunch. A friend you haven't heard from in years suddenly checking in. They always say the same thing. I don't know why I'm telling you this. But you know why. You feel why. It's not your words. It's not your advice. It's your spirit. You carry what I can only call a kind of spiritual gravity. A deep, steady pull that grounds people the moment they come near you. They don't understand it. They can't explain it. But they feel safe with you. Safe to be raw. Safe to be imperfect. Safe to lay their burdens down, if only for a moment. This is not something you were taught. It's something you were born with. Capricorn, you're not just emotionally intelligent, you are spiritually stabilizing. You don't just listen well. You listen with discernment. You hear what's behind their words. You feel what's hiding beneath their tone. And even when you don't speak, you create space for truth to emerge, space for shame to melt, space for healing to begin. That's why people come to you when they're lost. Not because you have all the answers, but because being in your energy reminds them they still have the strength to ask the right questions. This is the kind of presence that can't be manufactured. It can't be copied. It doesn't come from books or training. It comes from walking through fire and learning how to keep your soul intact. And you, Capricorn, have done just that. You've survived what others don't even know you've endured. You've sat in silence while carrying storms no one saw. You've rebuilt yourself from brokenness over and over again, and in doing so, you became someone others trust without even knowing why. That is the gift. And that is the cost. Because the more your spirit carries that quiet power, the more the world pulls toward you. They don't know how you stay so calm. They don't know how you remain grounded when everything is shaking. They don't realize that your stillness isn't passivity, it's inner mastery. You've paid for that peace. You've bled for that wisdom. You've sacrificed time, comfort, even relationships to become the stable, clear, powerful soul you are today. And now, without saying a word, your presence speaks louder than most people's voices ever could. Life lesson of part 4. You don't need to explain your power to be powerful. Let your spirit speak. Let your silence teach. And never feel guilty for being the gravity that holds others steady, just remember to stay rooted yourself. Part 5. The emotional cost of being strong. Capricorn, let's talk about the part no one ever sees, the part behind closed doors, when the weight gets too heavy, and even the strongest person in the room can no longer pretend it doesn't hurt. Because yes, you are resilient. Yes, you are steady. Yes, you hold others up when the world starts to fall apart. But do they ever ask what it costs you? You've spent so much time being the rock for everyone else that you've forgotten what it's like to crumble and be allowed to. You've swallowed your own pain because someone else's crisis looked more urgent. You've pushed through heartbreak, disappointment, and exhaustion because there was no room for you to fall apart. People say you're emotionally strong, but they don't understand what that strength has cost you. It's cost you connection, because you've had to be the dependable one instead of the vulnerable one. It's cost you rest, because people bring you their storms but never stay to calm yours. It's cost you softness, because every time you opened up, someone didn't know how to hold your truth, so you stopped sharing it altogether. This is the secret life of the strong. This is the burden you carry in silence, in shadow, with grace that no one claps for. Capricorn, I want you to know this. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to want to be held. It's okay to not have the answers all the time. You don't need to earn your right to rest. You don't need to justify your desire to be cared for. And you don't need to apologize for the moments you feel overwhelmed, because being strong does not mean being unbreakable. Even mountains erode. Even pillars crack. Even you, especially you, deserve someone who says, "Let me carry this for you today." But until that someone arrives, let me say what maybe no one has said to you in a long time. Thank you. For holding it all together. For staying when others walked away. For showing up when no one noticed you were bleeding inside. Your strength has shaped lives. Your endurance has saved people. Your presence has steadied the very foundations others are still standing on. But now, it's your turn. Your turn to be nurtured. Your turn to be held. Your turn to be seen not just as strong, but as human. Because behind that powerful Capricorn armor is a soul that has known quiet heartbreak. A heart that has waited years to be fully understood. And a spirit that longs to rest, not forever, just for once. Life lesson of part 5. Strength without rest becomes silence. And silence, over time, becomes pain. You are allowed to be both the healer and the one in need of healing. You are allowed to ask for what you give so freely to others. Part 6. Sacred boundaries, protecting what's rare. Capricorn, one of the most dangerous lies you've ever been told is this. That because you're strong, you don't need boundaries. That because you can handle more, you should. That because you give so freely, everyone should have access to you. But let's be clear, your strength is not public property. Your wisdom, your time, your energy, these are not infinite wells to be dipped into by anyone who demands it. You've spent years being available. You've answered messages at midnight. You've picked up the phone even when your soul was on empty. You've made room for people who never once asked if you had room to give. And while your heart is noble, Capricorn, your energy is sacred. Not everyone who needs you deserves access to you. Yes, you're dependable. Yes, you're a healer. Yes, your insight is invaluable. But you are not a rescue boat for everyone drowning in their own chaos, especially those who refuse to swim. Capricorn, boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They let the right people in and keep the draining ones out. They protect your light so that it doesn't burn out in the name of being useful. And here's the part that might be hardest for you to accept. Some people only love your function, not your soul. They love how you fix. They love how you listen. They love how you keep showing up. But they don't see you. They don't ask what you need. They don't notice when you're fading. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to believe that being useful is the only way to be loved. But that is not love, that is extraction. You were not born to be a tool in someone else's survival. You were born to be a whole being, complete, protected, seen. So now it's time. Time to draw the line. Time to say not today to emotional leeches. Time to choose depth over duty, connection over convenience, and soul over obligation. Because the more you protect your energy, the more powerful it becomes. And when you stop casting your pearls into every passing hand, you finally have the space to pour into what truly matters. Life lesson of part 6. You are not here to be everything for everyone. You are here to become more of yourself, not less, in the name of being needed. The more rare your energy, the more sacred your boundaries must become. Part 7. The awakening. They finally see the truth. Capricorn, something is shifting, not just around you, but because of you. For years, you've been the quiet strength in the background. The one who held it together. The one who never asked for recognition, only results. The one who poured in silence while others praised themselves in public. You did what needed to be done. You carried what others dropped. You stayed when no one else would. And for a long time, they didn't notice. Or worse, they noticed and pretended they didn't. They got used to your strength like it was automatic. They treated your presence like furniture, reliable, expected, invisible. But now, the silence is breaking. Because here's the truth. Your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. And suddenly, They're listening. They're remembering how the room felt when you were in it and how different it feels now that you've pulled your energy back. They're realizing that the stability they thought was natural was always you. That the progress they claimed was collective was driven by your quiet leadership. Even those who once took you for granted, they're starting to whisper your name again. Not out of habit, out of recognition, out of regret. And some of them are realizing something even deeper, that they didn't just lose a person. They lost a pillar. Capricorn, this is what awakening looks like. When the world finally sees what you were holding the whole time. When they look back and realize the peace wasn't circumstantial, it was you. When they begin to wonder how they didn't notice it sooner. But this moment is not just about them. It's not about waiting for apologies or for people to finally give you the credit you deserve. It's about you finally seeing what they refused to. It's about you finally standing in the truth that was always there even if no one acknowledged it. Because your energy was never small. Your presence was never background. Your leadership was never invisible. It was just too humble for the shallow to recognize. Now, let this be your turning point. You don't need a parade. You don't need a round of applause. What you need, and what you now have, is clarity. Clarity that you were never just there. You were always the difference. Life lesson of part 7. When the world wakes up to your value, don't shrink to make them comfortable again. Rise. Speak. Lead not for validation, but because the truth has finally caught up to you. And you're ready now to be seen in full light. Part 8. You are the difference. Capricorn, let's stop pretending this is coincidence. Let's stop pretending that the way people gravitate toward you is some accidental pattern. Let's stop pretending that the way systems stay stable when you're involved, the way problems begin to find clarity when you speak, the way people feel safer, clearer, more grounded just from being in your presence is just who you are. No, it's who you were born to be. But you haven't always seen it, have you? You've brushed it off as just doing your part. You've minimized your impact because humility runs through your veins. You've downplayed your wisdom because you didn't want to appear proud. But Capricorn, there's a difference between humility and invisibility. And it's time to stop confusing the two. Because yes, you are the difference between chaos and order in more lives than you will ever know. You are the difference between someone giving up and someone trying again. You are the difference between scattered energy and aligned purpose. You are not just a participant in people's stories. You are the thread that quietly ties so many of them together. And this is why it's time to stop apologizing for your power. You don't need to explain why people trust you. You don't need to justify why you always seem to be the one holding things down. You don't need permission to take up space, because you are the space where healing begins. You are the compass. You are the lighthouse. You are the anchor. You are the reason things don't fall apart completely. And the irony is, because you've done it so well, so quietly, they didn't even realize it was you. But now they do. Now you do. And once you see yourself clearly, you'll never let yourself be treated like an afterthought again. Because the truth is, you were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to be one of many. You were meant to lead differently, love deeper, and stand stronger than most can comprehend. And from this point on, the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you give your time will reflect that truth. No more dimming. No more shrinking. No more apologizing for being the one who holds it all together. You are not just important, you are essential. And your presence is not just powerful, it's transformational. Life lesson of part 8. When you finally see yourself as the difference maker, you stop chasing validation and start protecting your energy like the rare light it truly is. Because the world doesn't need another loud voice. It needs more silent forces like you, steady, grounded, healing. Conclusion: the season where you stop being silent. Capricorn, you've carried more than your share and still moved with grace. You've been the unshakable presence behind countless recoveries, reconciliations, and rebirths, often without a single thank you. But now the season is shifting. You're not just being seen, you're being revealed. The world is beginning to notice what you've always known deep down but were too modest to claim. That your presence isn't just helpful, it's sacred. That your steadiness isn't just appreciated, it's essential. That your soul wasn't built for noise, it was built for impact. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to be flashy to be unforgettable. And you don't need permission to rise. You already are. And now, for the first time, maybe you see it too. You're not just someone others turn to. You're someone who reshapes what's possible in the lives you touch. And from this moment forward, you no longer have to prove it. You just have to own it. So I want you to do one more thing before this video ends, and I mean this deeply. Go to the comments and write it, not for me, but for yourself. I am no longer hiding my strength. I am no longer shrinking. I am the difference, and I finally believe it. Write it. Speak it. Let it echo through the core of who you are. Because when you do, something shifts, not just in the world around you, but in you. And if this message has touched your spirit, if you've seen yourself in these words, then this isn't the end. It's the beginning. Because your journey, Capricorn, is sacred. And you deserve to walk it surrounded by those who finally see the depth you've always carried. So subscribe to Zodiac Secrets Revealed. Because this isn't just a channel. It's a sanctuary for souls like yours. Until next time, walk steady, stand tall, and never again dim your light.